What happened that day inside the congressional hearing room would later be replayed so many times that people could practically quote it word for word. But when it first unfolded, when the tension was raw and unfiltered, nobody realized they were witnessing the kind of political moment that future commentators would still be dissecting years from now. The room was already humming with anticipation long before the confrontation erupted. Cameras clicked into position, staffers shuffled through papers, and every representative taking their seat seemed to understand instinctively that the day was going to be anything but routine. It didn't matter that the hearing was supposed to be about oversight and accountability. Everyone knew that certain personalities in the room had a way of turning even the driest proceedings into headline-grabbing theater. Marjorie Taylor Greene entered the chamber with the unmistakable aura of someone preparing for a performance. Her confident stride, her perfectly arranged hair, and her piercing stare scanned the room like she was already anticipating a battlefield. Greene had crafted a political brand built entirely on audacity, confrontation, and her willingness to escalate any disagreement into a dramatic showdown. Whether people admired or disliked her, they agreed on one thing: she had mastered the art of getting attention. As she settled into her chair, one could almost feel the temperature rise. Greene wasn't just participating in the hearing, she was waiting for her cue to dominate it. Across the room sat Representative Jasmine Crockett, reviewing her notes in a quiet, methodical rhythm. Crockett's presence was almost the opposite of Greene's. She wasn't flashy, she wasn't loud, and she wasn't trying to create a spectacle. Yet she radiated a different kind of power, the kind that came from sharp intellect and years of legal training. With her natural hair styled neatly and her posture straight, she looked like someone who had faced challenges bigger than any congressional argument. She exuded the calm assurance of a woman who had once stood in courtrooms defending clients whose lives depended on her precision. She didn't need theatrics, she had facts, discipline, and strategy. From the first gavel strike, the hearing unfolded predictably: long-winded statements, carefully rehearsed questions, and witnesses offering guarded answers. The usual political back and forth filled the air, but underneath it all, a quiet storm brewed. Greene watched every exchange with restless impatience, tapping her pen, shifting in her seat, whispering to her aides. It was obvious she wasn't here for the bureaucratic details. She was waiting for her moment to ignite controversy, to seize the spotlight and turn a mundane session into a viral confrontation. When Greene was finally recognized to speak, she didn't take a slow, deliberate approach the way most representatives did. No. She leaned forward, adjusted her microphone, and launched straight into an impassioned denunciation of the current administration. Her voice rose quickly, hitting emotional peaks as she accused various agencies of corruption, bias, and political targeting. Her statements weren't calm inquiries, they were grenades thrown across the room, meant to provoke and rile her opponents. Staffers exchanged nervous looks, knowing Greene was veering far away from the topic of the hearing. But this was her trademark style. She didn't come for orderly dialogue. She came for conflict. As Greene continued speaking, the shift in her tone became more personal. Her gaze snapped toward Jasmine Crockett, and in a move that stunned even some of her Republican colleagues, she questioned Crockett's qualifications. She implied that the freshman representative owed her position to diversity optics rather than merit. The insult lingered in the air like smoke, charged with historical weight and personal attack. A few witnesses looked down awkwardly. Several representatives stiffened in their chairs. Everyone recognized that Greene had crossed a line that no professional chamber should tolerate. Crockett didn't react immediately. Instead, she finished highlighting her notes with her pen, placed it neatly on the table, and lifted her gaze with the kind of slow, controlled precision that said she had just mentally shifted gears. Her posture straightened, her eyes sharpened, and without rushing, she lifted her hand to request the microphone. Chairman Comer, aware that the room was entering dangerous territory, hesitated for a split second before granting her the floor. What followed was the kind of response that people would later call a masterclass. Crockett began softly, thanking the chairman. Her voice was steady, devoid of anger, and carried the calm authority of someone who didn't need to shout to be heard. She addressed Green's comments with a level of professionalism that immediately contrasted with the earlier outburst. She explained her years of legal experience, her background in civil rights litigation, and the rigorous work that had built her career. She didn't boast, she simply laid out facts with controlled precision. Then Crockett began guiding her words toward the heart of the issue, pointing out the irony of Green questioning anyone's qualifications. She did not fabricate or defame, she simply referenced well-documented public controversies Green herself had embraced, the kind Green often wore as a badge of pride. Crockett highlighted that she had never indulged in conspiracy theories, never been stripped of committee assignments, and never trafficked in claims that brought ridicule to Congress. Her tone wasn't mocking. It was surgical, almost clinical, and that made it even more devastating. The reaction was instant. Some members tried to suppress smirks. Others leaned back as if trying not to get caught reacting. The staffers behind Crockett looked like they had just witnessed an unexpected plot twist. But Green's face was turning redder by the second. As Crockett spoke, Green's expression contorted from irritation to full-blown rage. Her fingers tapped the desk impatiently. Her jaw clenched tight enough to crack. Then she exploded. Green stood, something rarely done during committee exchanges, and began shouting across the room. Her voice thundered as she accused Crockett of attacking her character and disrespecting her. She demanded that Crockett's statements be struck from the record. She gestured wildly, her tone frantic and emotional. The chairman pleaded for order, banging his gavel repeatedly, but Green continued shouting over him, her voice ricocheting off the walls. It was no longer a debate. It was a meltdown playing out in real time. But Crockett didn't budge. She didn't flinch. She didn't raise her voice. She simply watched. Calmly. Patiently. Almost analytically. Her stillness made Green's frenzy look even more unhinged. The contrast couldn't have been sharper, one representative losing control while the other remained composed, in full command of herself and the moment. When Green paused to inhale, Crockett leaned toward her microphone again. Her expression softened into something resembling polite concern, and with impeccable timing, she delivered the line that would become the defining quote of the entire exchange. She suggested, gently, almost kindly, that Representative Green take a moment to compose herself, since shouting was not recognized under parliamentary procedure. The room erupted, not loudly, but through choked laughter, stifled snorts, and the frantic clicking of reporters tweeting the quote in real time. Even some on Green's side looked away, suddenly very interested in their papers. The clip would later be replayed millions of times because it captured everything: Crockett's poise, Green's spiraling, and the surreal comedy of watching composure defeat chaos. Yet Crockett wasn't finished. She had more to say, and this time, her words turned even more pointed, not personal, but procedural, professional, substantive. She reminded the room that representatives were expected to read legislation, understand the issues before them, and engage with facts rather than theatrics. Her voice carried a sense of responsibility, the tone of someone who took the job seriously and believed the American people deserved better than political spectacle. She spoke of preparation, discipline, and the duty to elevate debates instead of dragging them into chaos. Her criticisms were framed around accountability, not insult, but they still landed with undeniable impact. Green attempted to interrupt several times, but each attempt was stifled by the chairman's warnings. Her frustration was palpable, she looked like someone watching control slip through her fingers. Crockett, however, never wavered. She delivered her remarks with the same calm resolve she had shown from the beginning. Reporters in the gallery were already typing furiously. Cameramen zoomed in on Crockett's face, capturing the steady composure that contrasted so sharply with Green's earlier outburst. They knew they had just witnessed a moment that would ripple through the media for days. When the hearing finally adjourned, the tension didn't dissipate, it simply shifted into the hallways. Reporters swarmed both representatives. Crockett delivered a brief, measured statement emphasizing professionalism and the importance of respectful dialogue. She chose not to gloat, not to escalate. She framed the confrontation as a reminder of why temperament matters in leadership. Green, cornered by a flock of microphones, insisted she had won the exchange. She claimed Democrats had ganged up on her and that the media would twist the narrative. Her supporters online echoed her words, but the footage circulating across social media told a different story. Crockett's calm contrasted too sharply with Green's frenetic shouting. The internet wasn't buying Green's version, not when the video evidence was so clear. Within an hour, hashtags celebrating Crockett's composure trended nationwide. Memes flooded every platform, highlighting the moment Crockett suggested Green calm down. TikTok users remixed the clip with dramatic music, slow-motion effects, and humorous captions. Twitter commentators dubbed it the freeze moment, because Crockett's calmness seemed to freeze Green mid-rage. Instagram pages shared side-by-side screenshots capturing the contrast between Crockett's steady posture and Green's flustered expression. Overnight, Crockett went from a rising freshman representative to a national sensation. Donations surged, interviews poured in, and analysts praised her ability to stay composed under pressure. She became a symbol of intelligent resistance, the kind of leadership many younger voters found refreshing. Political commentators noted that Crockett had done something rare. She had managed to counter a confrontational personality not by mirroring the chaos but by holding her ground with facts and control. Meanwhile, Green's reaction became a cautionary tale of what happens when volume meets strategy. Her usual method of dominating through intimidation backfired because her opponent wasn't rattled by noise. Crockett's silence had been more powerful than Green's shouting. As weeks passed, the moment remained one of the most replayed clips of the year. It became the subject of political podcasts, late-night monologues, and classroom discussions about composure in public leadership. People admired Crockett not merely because she responded cleverly but because she embodied something many Americans wish they saw more often in politics: calm strength. The hearing had started as just another oversight session, but it ended as a reminder that true authority doesn't need to scream. It doesn't need chaos. It stands firm, speaks clearly, and stays grounded even when provoked. Jasmine Crockett proved that in that room. She demonstrated that preparation outweighs anger, that discipline outmaneuvers chaos, and that the most powerful clapback can be delivered in a whisper. And so, what was meant to be a moment of embarrassment for her became the moment that introduced her to millions. A moment where professionalism defeated provocation, composure outranked volume, and a simple, ice-cold line turned into the most iconic congressional quote of the year. If you loved seeing how Jasmine Crockett flipped the script with pure composure and zero fear, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and stay tuned for more breakdowns of the political showdowns that reveal what real strength looks like when the cameras are rolling and the stakes are high.